Welcome back to the podcast, folks. In a second, we're going to be chatting with Tim and Marisa Notier about their incredible, so far, 3-year journey riding TeapotOne around the world. But first, a huge shout out to the podcast sponsors, who are, as we know, Innov. Now, Innov supply motorcycle dash cam systems. They range from the single C5 to the dual K systems. They have the K3 and the K5. The K3 is a 1080 front and rear camera. It's got a Wi-Fi enabled app. It's got a remote. It's got an external mic. The K5 is an upgraded 4K model. It also has an external mic, it has a remote, but it has faster Wi-Fi, which just makes using the app that little bit more user-friendly, shall we say. You can download files and things a bit quicker. They overlay, on the K3 and the K5, it overlays your GPS location onto the files. You can switch all this on and off. That's all well and good, but the main point of having these motorcycle dashcam systems is for your insurance. In the event of an accident, the first thing that's going to be asked is there CCTV? And if you've got one of these fitted, it can be the difference between a claim going your way or against. Head to innov.co.uk, that's INNOVV.co.uk/TP with the number 1, TP1, for more information and tell them I sent you. We're also supported by Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? The Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding through the winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. If you head to ultimateaddons.com and use the code TeapotOne10, that's TeapotOne with the number 10, all one word, you will get 10% off. And lastly, we're also supported by the Influencer Store. Now, the Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. And again, tell them TeapotOne sent you. Now, if you head over to TeapotOne.com, if you go to the shop, all my merch is handled by the Influencer Store, so that'll give you an idea of the quality we're talking about. And finally from me, a massive shout out to everyone who's supporting the podcast and the channel over on Patreon. It is a massive lifeline. I could not do this without you folks, so a huge thank you from me to each of you. If you'd like to support the channel or the podcast, head on over to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Okay, enough of that. Let's crack on with Tim and Marisa Notier. I don't know if you guys are partaking in a tipple this evening. I have a beer here, so feel free if you want to.
So it's evening by you, is that it?
It is. Oh yeah, what's the time there with you guys?
It's 1 PM, so not too early.
Well, it's never too early.
I get to do whatever
it's his birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, man. Awesome.
Thank you, bro.
Well, I tell you, shall we crack on now then, and then we can wish you all happy birthday in the podcast? Yeah, no worries. We'll wait. No problems.
Open his beer.
No problem.
It's called Dragon's Milk, which I think is a great name.
I'll open my beer now as well then. You got tea. You're the sensible one.
Yeah, it's the sensible one.
Right. Well, happy birthday to Tim.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you all. Marisa, enjoy your tea.
You too. Thank you.
Right then, folks, welcome to this week's episode. And this week we have Tim and Marisa Notier. It's Notier, isn't it? Notier?
No, that's correct.
That's how you pronounce it, yeah. Tim and Marisa Notier from Notiers Frontiers. If you haven't heard of these amazing people, they are currently, well, I would say in the middle, but you're in a journey, a 3-year journey so far around the world. But obviously pandemic has led to, where you are at the moment, and we can cover all that.
That's right.
How about, can I just throw the floor open to you guys and just go, right, what's your name, where'd you come from, what you do, and you can let people know what you've been up to, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm Marisa Notier.
And I'm Tim Notier.
And we met in high school, ages ago. And we actually dated in high school as well.
We went to prom together.
Yes, we went to prom.
It's a real love story, isn't it, you two?
Well, and then any good Hallmark show, there's some drama. We actually broke up, and I like to say she traveled the entire world looking for someone equal to or better than I.
And I didn't find him.
That goal. And then came back.
Smooth.
And, we came back into our lives, and I had a love for motorcycles. She had a love for travel, and we kind of combined those two. And
so around 2017, we quit our jobs. We sold all of our possessions, and we hopped on his motorcycle.
I got a KTM 1190, and
we're both on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we started just heading southwest, and then we hit the Pacific Ocean. And then we started heading south, and we went all the way down to the bottom of South America on the motorcycle to Ushuaia, Argentina. Uh-huh. And by that point in time, our bike was falling apart a little bit. And so we went up to Buenos Aires and flew ourselves in the motorcycle back to the United States for a few months. We got married.
My dad. So thank you, Dad, for marrying us.
And then we flew out of Canada to Cape Town, South Africa, and started riding more or less up the eastern side of Africa until the pandemic happened and we were in Uganda, where we got stuck. And, we had a vehicle with us, so it wasn't as easy as just flying home.
Yeah. And so it's like, I think everybody else in the world, it was like, this is going to be a month, maybe 2 months. So let's just wait out the storm. 1 month, 2 months turned into 6 months, 9 months, 12 months.
And here we are.
But
it wasn't a woe is us. We were living pretty uniquely, but well might not be the word, but we were, we rented a little house that was very, very, very basic. Uh-huh. But there was a cat that had kittens, and so we raised 2 kittens from 2 days old up to 6 months old, Marco and Dora. But and we had a house, and we got to play, adults again with the house and everything you do in the house. So it was very cheap. So
we were basically ping-ponging between Uganda and Kenya. Whenever our visa would run out, we'd go back to the other country. Yeah. And we just recently came back to our home in Chicago about a month and a half ago.
Yeah. And to be clear, it was my dad's home.
Now, just to clarify, that whole journey so far, that's been over 3 years, isn't it? You were on the road?
Yeah. So the first 2 years was us going down to Ushuaia. Wow. And then there was a small break in between when we flew back and got married. Of course, there was the initial plan of being here for a couple months, and a couple months turned into a few more months than expected. But but then we flew to Cape Town on September 12th.
It'll be 4 years this August, I think.
Yeah, that we originally left. So.
Yeah.
And do you have, I appreciate everyone in the world's in the same situation at the moment, but do you have any idea when the journey will be able to commence? I don't know what the situation in the States is with regards to travel at the moment.
Well, as far as commencing again, my goal in life since we left is to see castles. Now you are in an opportunity where you get to see castles quite often, but
for us, it's like,
I don't. This whole thing has been about me seeing castles, and
still haven't gotten
there. But we are actually going to leave early July to go see my mother, who moved to Florida. And then we have some friends, the adventure hacks in Canada, who are in DC. And so if the Canadian border and the US border open up, our first priority is to go say hi to them.
Awesome.
We want to do a big tour around the United States. Right now, even just within the United States, travel is open.
And
you can go all over the place.
Yeah. And we're pretty lucky to be back on this continent, just because the U.S. is huge, and you have canyons and you have valleys. We don't have a lot of volcanoes, at least, but there's plenty of mountains. And
quite a few volcanoes too, actually.
Yeah.
Yellowstone and
what am I thinking then? I don't know.
We don't have jungle.
We don't have jungle. I knew we didn't have something.
That's something we don't have.
Well, you've got like what they call the Appalachian Mountains. That's a bit jungly in places, isn't it?
That's so true. All those lizards and snakes.
Yeah, that's it. That's true. It's true what you said. Sorry to interrupt there. It's true what you say about the States, in that it's such a vast country, isn't it? And it changes. I think a lot of people, certainly, I think us British and Europeans possibly, we almost sort of not dismiss the States for traveling on a motorbike, including in an overland journey, but it's just like, it's a means to get through, and head on up to Alaska. But when you come off the beaten track in the States, get off the highways and the freeways and do the back roads and just see the country, it's amazing. It's amazing how it changes so much.
Yeah,
it really is. And we're from a part of the country that's kind of known to be a boring place to drive through. But even that isn't 100% true.
Yeah,
There's still beautiful things here in Illinois as well.
They say like the biggest hill around Chicago is the pitcher's mound at Wrigley Field.
It's just flat here. Very flat, lots of cornfields. But that can be a beautiful drive as well. So we are very fortunate that we were able to come back. I mean, we came back at the right moment because currently Uganda is back in another lockdown. So we flew out when things happened to be quite good. So we are fortunate.
Yeah. But now that we're on the North American continent, I think next spring we'll head up to Alaska. You mentioned Alaska, and that, to me, in my little fantasy world that I've created for myself based on the 12 pictures that I can mentally think of, it kind of reminds me of Patagonia, which is my favorite place on this planet right now, solely because I have not seen castles yet. So asterisk. But, it's that's going to be exciting. But the Canadian border needs to open up first. But if that one doesn't open up, we're going to already be in enough trouble, because that means everything else won't be. But
we are
some positive spirits.
With your castle hunt, wait till you get to Germany. When you get Germany and see Bavaria, it's literally the stuff of fairy tales. They're castles. They say like the Disney castle is modeled on, I can't remember the name of the castle, but I'm sure it's Bavaria. It's in Germany. Stunning. It looks like it's been. Yeah, it looks like it's been painted, doesn't it?
Yeah. We are so excited. Every place in the world has its incredible thing. I mean, there's not a place on earth that if someone was like, hey, I'll pay for your flight there, that I wouldn't go. Every place has its incredible thing.
But the States don't, just the age of the States, there's not, everything goes back to, hunter-gatherer and tribes moving around and things built of wood. And, the Taos Pueblos are there. But as far as age-wise go, when we were down in South America and we were looking at Machu Picchu, my mind was blown. Like, this is the oldest thing I've ever touched in my entire life. And I'm telling this to Marissa, and if you get to know me, I'm not airheady, but I just don't think things through all the time. And I'm just like, wow, this is so old. And she's like, Oxford University has already been teaching for,
Right. By the time those rooms were built.
Yeah. It's like, my whole time perspective is just,
Yeah,
but,
it does make us laugh a little bit in the UK when you go on about, when Americans talk about history 200 years old or 300 years old, and you're like, God, we've got a building here that's like 1,000 odd years old.
There's a stone in my backyard that predates.
It's so true. So we love history, and we're very excited to come across more history. But we also love nature, which was one of the things we loved about Africa. Was all the nature, all the wildlife. There's no other place on earth where you're riding around and you could run into an elephant if you're not careful, and that was really incredible. We had some great experiences there.
Wildlife in Africa and South America blew my mind. And then like nature in both. South America is probably favorite continent so far, just because of the vast, the wildlife, the seclusion. You can find yourself in the middle of nowhere and beautiful scenery. Yeah. You have your touristic hot spots, but being on a motorcycle is really nice because you can drive down a gravel road into the middle of nowhere and have your own little personal slice of heaven.
You really feel like you're the only ones out there. Maybe you'll see a llama herder. Yeah. He'll wave
and he'll look at you like, why are you here? And you'll look at him and be like, where did you even come from?
What struck me when I was on the road was when I thought I was in the middle of nowhere, someone would always appear and you were just like, where they're walking and you'd be like, where have you come from? But there was always somebody.
All the time in Africa.
Yeah, we would camp in the middle of nowhere and under a tree and you look around with nobody. Yeah. And then I woke up and there was like 4 Maasai men, these really tall tribal people with huge earrings and dress and like they're very majestic. Yeah. They look like they stepped out of the Wakanda script, and they're just like, wow, where did you come from?
We're thinking the same thing. Like there's nothing up here. It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm sure I haven't pre-read any of the questions. I'm sure you know the format. I put up on my socials to say who the next guest is, and people have the opportunity to leave questions. I try not to pre-read them so that it's as much as a surprise to me as it is to you. But it's just questions come in my head. It may well get asked, so apologies if anyone's asked this question. But what is the strangest animal that has crossed your path then, as we were talking about nature? What's the weirdest or most surprising animal that's just sort of popped out in front of you?
Well, I would say elephant probably just has to take number one spot. Yeah. And that is scary, coming across a bull elephant and he flares his ears at you.
Wild as well.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
You can get close enough to like take really good pictures, and we have some good, pictures of us. We look closer than we actually are. But once it flares its ears, that's like just, the warning shot over the head.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
When I was coming through Thailand, they have a lot of like rescue sensors or rescue areas for elephants, and they'll take them for walks. So you see these, like road signs that they might in the US they might say, beware of, I don't know, the bear or beware of the moose or something like that. Well, these have got elephants, and it's like, elephant crossing. And I did come round the corner and there were some elephants being walked across the road by their carers. But my good old GoPro, it's like a GoPro Hero 1, I think, or 2 I had at the time. Didn't work. So like this like once in a lifetime opportunity just trotted across the road in front of me.
That's such a shame.
There was plenty of elephants in Botswana. If you want to see elephants, I would target people to go to Botswana.
Yeah, it is intimidating, of course.
Yeah, but the strangest, so she kind of listed the weirdest or what, but when we were in Peru, we camped one night and we set up our tent on this portal to hell where these little demon centipedes with scorpion backs, and I don't know what this thing was. And the only pictures, it's like taking a picture of a UFO. I got real close on taking it, but it's still only like, 16-bit. So like, it's hard to prove to the rest of the world that these things exist.
Yeah, no,
but it was like something Tim Burton would make out of clay.
Out of the ground. And it was all marching in the same direction. They had like a tail, they're insects with long legs and kind of a tail sticking up.
It was
like
a caterpillar.
And
wow.
For everybody audibly listening, it was a caterpillar with spider legs and a scorpion tail. And
what did you been eating funny cookies or something before you saw this?
I wish I was. And I usually don't just kill things out of the sake of killing things, but I was trying to rid the world of whatever these were.
This is a demon.
Yeah. And you just hear the ticker tacking on the tent. It was just, we knew we were in a safe zone, but that I think would be the strangest animal that we've ever come across.
I tried looking it up on Google.
They don't exist. This is somewhat excellent.
You could have a world first. Could have named it after you.
I call it the Notiers.
That was also the night that I had hurt my foot. Well, the day.
Yeah.
We had this was the worst crash, I suppose we could say.
Yeah.
Tim calls it a power slide.
An NHL power slide.
Which makes it sound really cool, but it wasn't.
Intended, yeah.
Yeah, we just kind of slid. The back tire slipped out over a very algae kind of patch of water. And my foot hit the ground and it got bent the other way underneath the pannier. Yeah. And so I ended up on crutches after that for a good few months. I had torn the ligament in my foot.
Oh. Yeah.
But that night, I mean, we were so far from any town or hospital. We had planned on wild camping, and so we had to wild camp. And that was the night with the creepy bugs, and I just thought the world was ending.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a praying mantis like up close and personal? They're amazing, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
It's like you look at them and you're like, that's got a character. It looks like a Pixar character, doesn't it? Half expect it to start talking.
A baby praying mantis.
Wow.
One that is
they look just like the adults,
but they're miniature. Yes. Those are some of my favorite.
I love how they follow you with their head is basically just eyeballs.
Yeah, that's right.
And they follow you around looking at you.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I remember I saw it when I was in Japan for a while, and I remember riding up the mountain in the evening, and there was a beautiful sort of, well, it wasn't even a sunset. I think it was the moon. It was an amazing sky off to the right, and I pulled into this like lay-by off the road. And just, I think it was the moonlight, or it might have been my headlight. Something made this thing glint. And I was, what's that? Went over to have a look. And I was literally like 2 feet away from it before it registered that that's a praying mantis. And like you said, he was literally just looking at me like that.
Aliens do exist.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Shall we crack on with questions? Because otherwise we'll sit and chat for hours here.
Let's do that too.
Okay, cool. Lovely job. Right. First off, we'll go to Patreon, the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Philip Martin. Greetings from sunny Britain. Questions to you all. In your round the world trip, if you were a photojournalist and witness a person about to be shot by a terrorist group, would you rather take I never pre-read these, sorry. Would you rather take a picture and publish it so the world can have evidence of the crime, or would you leave your camera behind and try to do something, if possible, to stop the crime from happening? Wow, straight in with 2 feet.
I've seen a couple of these episodes and I did not.
Well, I would say that in a less severe circumstance, when it comes to us falling, my first instinct is to pick up the bike. Whereas I've been trying to train myself to take a picture first and then pick up the bike.
I think what she's saying is her natural instinct is to defuse the situation and then check on herself. Like when we crash, the first question out of her mouth is, "Are you okay?" Her foot could be twisted all the way around. Yeah. But I do think that would be a very awkward situation we ever found ourselves in. But I would find it very difficult to try to start documenting something instead of trying to
And I think the dynamic, because there's two of you, there's a couple, then obviously you're looking out for each other. First and foremost, you're looking out for each other, aren't you? Whereas, for me, I was solo, so there's no one else to look out for, is it? And I think you're either one of two people, aren't you? You're either looking after number one or you're going to help one or the other, I think, initially on that initial response. But it's weird because the more I'm thinking about this one, Philippe, the more I think about it, you think, blimey, some places that you go through, well, you're just another bullet, aren't you, really, at the end of the day? And, that's a difficult question. I would like to think I would help. Yeah, I would like to think I would help. Cool. That's a difficult question.
It is.
It's a deep one.
Because,
it is. Straight out the gate.
Might broadcast the awareness.
It's also helpful. Yeah. In its own way. And I think if I was more aware, I would want to also do that but I know my first instinct would probably be, and
Help.
focus on the problem.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said there, Marisa, about you're trying to teach yourself to like capture the moment before you deal with the moment, because that's something I was told. I met up with a chap who'd ridden all around South America actually, and the States before I did my trip, and he said to me one of the best bits of advice: when you're feeling at your lowest, at your absolute lowest, and the last thing you want to do is turn on that camera and talk to it, he said that is when you want to be capturing it, because that's the emotive, that's the emotion, the human side of your story. And it's really true. And it's really hard to do, isn't it? When you're absolutely shattered and you're at wit's end, you've dropped the bike again, or it's broken down, or you're lost, or the last thing you want to do. That's what you need to capture on camera, isn't it? You have to force
That's right.
yourself.
And that brings up a really good point, because when we look back at our travels, we see all the beautiful pictures from the comfort of our living room, and we think, oh, wow, that was so great. It was so great. And sometimes it's easy to forget all the struggles that we were having in that moment. Yes, the picture looks great, but, maybe I was sick because I'd eaten something the day before that wasn't good. Or
and the GoPro captures some candid, not my brightest moments in time where... When we're editing videos together, we kind of got to be like, I couldn't use that.
Cut that,
The beauty of editing, eh? The beauty of editing.
Real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're never perfect. We have these falls, we have these problems, and every time it happens, my first thought is, well, this is the end of everything. We're going to be stuck here forever. Never going to leave this
That's
spot.
my default emotion.
Yeah, I don't know why that's my default, but it's
not yours. She is the balance to it. I'm not Mr. Doom and Gloom, but when something bad happens, I say, why did the universe all line up to target Tim Notier and then attack me in full force with a laser beam? And then I start to realize that,
it didn't.
It did.
Course
exactly.
Not.
Yeah.
You feel like that in the moment. And then I'm trying to teach myself to take a step back, look at the whole situation and be like, no, we're going to get through it. We've gotten through worse before, so we'll get through it. Of course,
and you always will get through it, won't you? There'll always be a path out of this situation. Somehow, it happens, doesn't it?
It's also strange.
I'm sorry. No, please go on.
It's also strange how sometimes in the worst situations, someone just appears out of nowhere to help with everything you need.
Yep.
It's very coincidental.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It just seems like every time there's a locked door, there's a little dangling key underneath, and you're like, oh, what is? Oh, here we go. So.
Before I traveled, everything was logical in my head, in my world. Everything was logical, pardon the expression, but everything was black and white. It's this way because it's this way, and don't be ridiculous. That's how you do it. And then once I hit the road and off I went, it was like, as you just said, wow, things happen that you think, how did that? Why did that person appear then? Or why did I choose to take that direction, which then led me to meet these people and go and do these things? And I've sort of become a bit of a hippie since then now, because I'm like, maybe there is something out there directing which way I go. Who knows?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know if I've made it to a hippie level, but it does make me feel like you just said, it's like, I'm not going to go as far as believing in guardian angels or anything, but it's just crazy. It's like, why was that one person there in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
And it was there to help lift the bike up. And then I never saw him before, and I'll never see him again. But thank you.
It's crazy, isn't it? I love it. I love that aspect of life. Once you just sort of, when you hit the road and you open yourself up to the road, and just whatever comes, the roll of the dice, whatever's coming your way, and you're just, okay, we'll just deal with that then. You stop focusing on 6 months, a year down the line. It's like, right, what's going to happen in the next hour or two? Let's go with it. See.
Yes.
Philippe had a second question. Sorry, Marisa, sorry to interrupt.
No.
He says, also, do you believe it's possible to go around the world overlanding without paying a single bribe? Wow, Philippe, you've got a certain outlook on life, mate.
So I did feel that way. And bribes, our first bribes were in Mexico, and it was pretty much, I did a bunch of stupid things in a row, and then I got bribed. We were riding at night. We didn't have our helmet. I had just gone to an ATM to get money for our hotels, and I didn't have my fake wallet and stuff on it, which I suggest everybody have a dummy wallet with a couple bucks on it.
It was all stupidity.
It was all stupidity, and we got pulled over, and I realized all this gentleman wanted out of me was money, but he took my actual license. And so in my mind's eye, it's going from a bribe to me buying my motorcycle license back.
Yeah.
And to make this more of a quicker answer, I won't even go into how much I paid, but it was way too much, but I got it back. And it was a good lesson to know where the financial bribery, where we should be at, A, and B, it was, we made a list of rules for ourselves, and then we broke them all at the same time, which was just really stupid about.
Yeah.
And since then, we've ended up paying all sorts of bribes.
But small little, like
small ones.
When you're in Africa,
taxes.
Road taxes.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, and they're so small, it's to the point of, you know, like, it's frustrating, but here's the $1.50 to make my life easier, and you get it. Yeah.
But I think it's possible.
I don't think it is. Like
you might end up in jail, though.
I mean, I've always said we have more time than money, and so I can weight your stubbornness. But then I do get to a point where my stubbornness, like they have more time. They're like, you know, so.
And obviously paying bribes is wrong. And so you have this
moral dilemma.
Dilemma of doing it just as the easy way out, and you're causing more harm to the person after you.
Absolutely.
It is wrong. And but unfortunately it has happened to us quite a bit.
I would say the vast majority of us travelers are in the same boat. Most travelers, I would say, you probably start off with the best intentions, going, nope, I'm not paying it. I'm going to queue. I can do all the paperwork myself. And, you know, when I get stopped, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not paying. But, you know, I remember I came down the West Africa from the north, and I got as far as Mauritania, and literally, you know, just got robbed every single day, umpteen times a day. And I look back now, and it's just your taxes. It's just police checkpoints where you have to pay you've got to pay them a tax. But at the time, it was a bit of a novelty to have an AK put in your face, and you know, your wallet emptied. But I don't know. Sorry, go on.
I've rejected more bribe requests than paid. So there will be people that are like, "Oh, you're getting a ticket," and I'll say, "Yeah, no, I'm not." And they're like, "But you did this thing," and I'd be like, "Yeah, no, I didn't." They're like, "But I'm telling you did," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm telling you that if this were reality, I would totally pay it. But since this is not a reality, and everybody present knows that it's not, I'm not going to give you any money." And they just look at you because they've never been told, like, "I'm not going to pay you the bribe," and they're like, "Oh, that's a Central African noise." How dare you? I'm the police. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I don't feel like donating today. You know?
Sometimes it's really good to have two people, because you can kind of play the good cop,
bad cop.
Yeah,
I bet you can guess who's true.
Which one are you, Tim?
I'll come in and say, "I'm so sorry for doing the thing that Tim says we didn't do." And, you know, and sometimes that'll really work as well.
Yeah.
So we have gotten out a lot of bribes.
I found, I was expecting the worst. Certainly in Central America, I was expecting, you know, I thought it's going to be bandits, and God, when I get to like El Salvador and Mexico, I thought, you know, into the lion's den. And I had no issue at all. Literally, you know, you would see the people stopped at the side of the road with the masks, you know, bandanas all up round, and they're basically stopping all the traffic to get payments to go over the little bridges and everything like that. But they just wave me through. I don't know if it's because I was on I did it on a sports bike, so I don't know if they just looked and thought, what, and just waved me through. But I never got stopped and asked for any money out of the roadside sort of bandits at all.
Wow.
South or Central America.
Central America and South America, we didn't get harassed much at all.
Just
all
Mexico.
right, okay.
Mexico. But like we would like the guards with the AK hanging over their shoulders, we'd drive by and they'd give us a thumbs up. And I thought it was like, you guys are
Colombia,
cool. Yeah. I thought they were like, oh, you guys are awesome.
Colombia is so friendly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Well, they're giving you a thumbs up to inform you that the next 5 miles has been cleared and safe. So it's not
right.
personal.
Okay.
How
We kept thinking, we're awesome. Everyone loves us, right?
Yeah. They're friendly. Yeah.
But they are genuinely very friendly there.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. I loved Colombia. I wish I'd explored there more. But I literally just where did I go into? Medellin, and then I flew my bike to Panama from there. So I was literally overnight. That's all I was. I'd love to spend more time there.
Beautiful.
Right. Yeah, gorgeous place. Next one, Gary Whipperman. This is awesome. How do you... Gaz loves you guys. I don't know if you know Gary, but Gary loves you guys. He was one of the people that said, please get Tim and Marisa on.
Thank you.
Cheers to you.
This is awesome. How do you recover from a low moment on your travels? I've read both your books and seen most of the YouTube vids, an inspiration to anyone wishing to travel. Thank you. I know Gaz has got some plans to hit the road himself, but low moments, how do you deal with that?
So it's good to lean on each other because usually when we're both dipped into either foul moods,
That's
one of us always has to be the counterbalance. And more than often, again, with this guessing game, you'll understand who is the spirit booster.
No, not always.
Not always.
But we need to have one of us be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get through it. We really do rely on each other. Yeah. Absolutely.
And when we're both in a slump, sometimes because we have nothing but time, right? Like we're more bound financially than time wise. And so when we need to pause and figure crap out for 2 days or a week, or I don't care if it's a month, to just pause and be like, we need to figure out what we're doing, what's going on in our lives,
it can even be 5 minutes. It's just that pause is so important. And I would say if you do 24 hours, like something will have happened where something will be resolved, or you can see an end to your problems.
Yeah.
It's important.
And to piggyback on the conversation we had before where things usually work out type things, you just trust in the universe, which is really hard for someone like me. But like, it's just, you wait just a little bit of time and the next step is resolved before you even realize. And what I try to tell myself is say, before you gripe and moan about the world, give it 24 hours. If it's been 24 hours, gripe and moan and have your little pity party and break out the violins. But, usually by that time that has already happened, the next step has already been figured out. And so then personally, I reflect on my attitude and my reactions over the past 24 hours. And I say, man, I hope next time this happens, I don't act like a little kid again. And of course, the next time something stupid happens, what, default, the woe is me mode. But one day something uncomfortable will happen. And I'll say, we will be okay. And Marisa will look at me and say, we will be okay.
Now, you guys are traveling 2 up on a motorcycle. I assume you sleep in the same tent. You don't have separate tents. So, I mean, how do you deal with? You've got no personal space.
The bathroom.
To spend weeks in the bathroom.
Yes. Occupied.
I think a lot of people have dealt with this during the pandemic.
Yeah, true.
But even more so for us, like we are physically touching all night and the 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours a day of writing. So, 9 hours of sleep with 7 hours of writing, the 16 hours of physically touching each other. I've never physically touched somebody that long, that often in my entire life.
It's making me feel like,
it's like one of those game shows where you touch the card. Whoever lets their hand off wins the car. I want to break it.
But at the same time, though, because we're on a motorcycle and we have our own helmets, that's kind of my own space.
Yeah.
So some couples on the motorcycle, they'll have, the Bluetooth Sena system. You do as well. But they'll talk to each other the whole time, which we've not gone to that level.
From high school. She knows all my stories. I know all of her stories. And there's nothing current. There's no new information for her to tell me.
That's kind of like our alone time. So we each have our own music going on in our helmets.
I listen to like Guns N' Roses and Nine Inch Nails, and she's in her own little...
I listen to movie soundtracks. So I am going through epic adventures in my helmet.
Oh God, what is your favorite movie soundtrack for the trip so far?
Ooh, I would say maybe the Man of Steel soundtrack by Hans Zimmer. That's crazy.
All right.
And again, she has not stated anything about the quality of the movie. A movie could be awful, but as long as the soundtrack is good, she'll be like, "Oh, it's amazing."
You can't go wrong with Hans Zimmerman, can you? He did Gladiator as well, I think, didn't he?
Yeah,
that's stunning.
And the average person should know.
That's because I have told you many Hans Zimmer facts. Yes.
And she knows a lot of Guns N' Roses references because of me.
Yes.
There you go.
But I think that's really meditative. You're in your own helmet, and just there's the road and you, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love the. I mean, this is not exactly highbrow. This is no Hans Zimmerman, but I love the Blues Brothers soundtrack, and I'll never forget as I rode into Chicago on my trip, I had Sweet Home Chicago playing. It was just like, yeah, this is it. Loving it.
We just passed the Joliet Penitentiary the other day on our way to Morris.
Blues Brothers memorabilia.
Brilliant. There you go. Awesome.
Good one.
Right. Cheers for that, guys. Next one, Pete English. Hi, guys. Hope you're all fit and well. Question: would you rather always say what's on your mind, however blunt, or know what people really think of you? Ooh.
Oh, read the books, because that's all. You don't necessarily think I'm the no. I try to be as honest as I can, just so people can be relatable, right? Because I mean, there are a lot of books out there, and I don't get into the more personal stuff between us, but I'm very honest that Marisa almost flew home a couple times on her trip because of feuds between us. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, we resolved them, but.
I think honesty is important.
Honesty is important. I mean, completely revealing the man behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz is...
I mean, some things people don't want to know.
Yeah. But,
no, tell us.
But, I mean, you're out on the road with one other human being that you're touching for 16 hours. Things are going to, there's going to be a little friction. But it lets other people know. And I've had a couple of people relay back to me either through the little videos we make or the book and say, my wife and I have argued before too. And I'm glad that we're not the only ones. Like that was ever a realm of possibility to begin with. But, just to know that the problems that we have might not be openly discussed by everybody out there, but it's something that is relatable to. It's just not the happiest subject, but we're all human. We all bicker. I'm very pissy sometimes, and she can deal with me and help correct me on course.
But sometimes with social media, it's always the pretty side of things that you see. Yeah. And so we do try to also mention that we have human problems just like everyone else.
And I always try to diffuse our troublesome times with a little bit of a sense of humor. So I can laugh at it, you can laugh at it. So no one's like, wow, this Tim Notier kid is really a mean-spirited individual. I'm not, but like, if you were to record me in a candid camera and some of my actions by myself, I'm not the most noble human being 100% of the time, but
I don't think anyone is, Tim, to be honest, and I think if someone is effectively laying their life out there for everyone to see, warts and all, then you can't no one can hide from any perceived faults you think you might have or do have, As you said, it's human. It's just being human.
Yeah, and we're not on an MTV reality show where it's just the drama that people care about. This isn't Jersey Shore. This isn't, this is real life adulthood, having fun, and with those are the dips and the peaks. But I do think that both are necessary to,
But we also want to express the fact that really anyone can do what we do.
Yeah.
You don't need some special type of person or some special type of couple.
And that you will encounter problems, and you do as a team or as an individual need to progress past those in a forward momentum.
But it will just make you grow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's just real. It's just life, isn't it? It's life, but you're on the road on a motorbike. That's just the way it is. How have you found then sort of having to adjust to being static and in a home for the foreseeable future? I mean, how's that been?
Well,
we've been static for a while in Africa, which is not the same as being static back home. Because it's still very cool. Yeah, there was a wild monkey that would come around and little pet geckos, and so it felt very different, and still it wasn't traveling, but it was still exotic. And we were still, in a sense, living off of our motorcycle and everything that we'd brought there.
And since we've come to Chicago, Marisa got a new inspiration to create these YouTube videos and show. We're still kind of living in our past, recreate, we're still deeply involved with everything we've done. I'm writing my third book. And so I'm reliving our South American adventures through her videos, discussing current trips and our trip through Mexico and Central America. And so we're lucky enough not to have full-time jobs, so we can have full-time imagination and be living through our own experiences.
And we're also going to be traveling, like we said before, soon enough through the U.S.
So it's something to focus on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we got the past to focus on, the future to focus on.
So it hasn't been too bad.
No, we've been pretty good.
I know it can be quite an adjustment for a full-time traveler. That's its own lifestyle. And then coming back home to a sedentary life can be really hard. Absolutely.
Yeah, I struggled. I was away for, in total, about a year and a half. But and when I got back, almost a year it took me to sort of adjust back into it. I couldn't settle, and it was almost like, well, what now? What's the point now then? Like, dude, what was the point of me doing the trip if I've just come back to what I left, and no one else has changed, but you have, and well, it's something everyone deals with, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can relate, and you have an audience that tunes in because they have the same interests as the collective. Mm-hmm. But what I found with my friends and family, and I love them to death, but I found out that when we've returned, I'm really glad that I have Marisa so I can talk to about our experiences, what we've done, where we've been, what we've seen. The excitement's still high because my friends and family, to a certain degree, they just don't care, and I don't.
Yeah. And they don't understand.
And I don't expect them to be like,
relate to that. Yeah.
David Attenborough voice and tell me all about Africa.
The penguins.
Yeah. But you can get in a few cultural references and, hey, this was cool and we did that. But we do know a couple people that have come home and they've traveled by themselves and they have all this stuff to tell people, but no one cares.
Yeah.
And so,
hard.
But
it is. To begin with, everyone wants to hear your stories, don't they? But 2 or 3 weeks down the line, they're just like, "Oh, please God, no one mention the trip. Whatever you do, no one mention the trip."
When did you puke into a hole in the ground? That's what I want to hear.
That's right.
Right. Next question. Sorry to keep things moving, but there's quite a few questions to get through here. Otherwise, we'll be here for about 4 hours, I think. Johnny Hackinson. Hi, guys. An impressive achievement. My question, we've already done it. How do you find your alone time when traveling as a couple? Best regards, Johnny. Sorry, Johnny, I nicked your question, mate. I do apologize.
In the Johnny.
Yep. Next one, Scott Doby. Love both books and looking forward to the next one. Where in South America would you go back and spend more time? And is there anywhere you didn't make it to that would be on the must-do list? Love the new video series.
Thank you.
This is going to be a lame answer that probably won't satisfy a soul, but every country we went to, I would go back to. Colombia, the people there were the most friendly people that I've met, and the friendly people are all over the world, don't get me wrong, but Colombia was amazing.
Yeah, I could live in Colombia. If I had to choose a spot where I would spend the rest of eternity, it might be Colombia, because
so many people have said that. Yeah,
and there was a lot that we missed there, especially southern Colombia.
We had to get to a Horizons Unlimited event in Quito, Ecuador, and so the tail end of Colombia we kind of gassed through.
We never even made it to Medellin.
No,
did you not?
No, but we spent a long time crisscrossing east to west to north to south.
There's just too many things to see.
Yeah. So we'd go back to Colombia. We'd go back to Ecuador because that was amazing. I could spend years in Peru.
Yeah.
I don't even Peru was insane. Everybody is gravitated to the Sacred Valley in Cusco, but like northern Peru, there's no tourists there.
No.
And those roads, those mountain roads that are just like this with a cliff.
Yeah. So there's not a country that I would not go back to visit again. And the second part of the question, we didn't hit Brazil because by then my bike was dying. I was emotionally in one of my putter poo poo moments because, I went to the end of the world and quite literally it felt like the end of the world was coming, so there's Brazil. And that can be a trip all by itself. I mean, that is
it's huge. It's immense, that place, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
it was interesting what you said about, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, Tim.
No, go for it, sir.
It's interesting what you said there about Peru. What I remember in northern Peru is you go through the Atacama Desert and then it must be, is it Ecuador? Yeah, it's Ecuador, isn't it? Top of Peru. Is that right? I'm trying to remember. Yeah. And you're saying about the cliffs. I remember working my way up through the cliffs on the road, and it was nighttime now. And I think I had to stop and fill up with fuel out of a jerry can. And it was just pitch black. And I remember looking up into the sky, and I just saw the Milky Way, and it was my first time like really seeing the Milky Way with no light pollution, nothing. And I think I stood there for like half an hour just looking. Like, that is stunning. Absolutely amazing.
We are really into the stars.
We love the stars. I actually got the Big Dipper tattooed on a place where I won't show you. And so did she.
Or the Little Dipper.
Yes, she's got the Little Dipper.
That's too much info, Marisa. Sorry, Tim. Sorry, mate.
But we were in Argentina, and I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning one night to give an attempt at night photography, and it was during the blood super moon wolf vampire breath eclipse. Whatever, right?
Just randomly.
All I know is I went to sleep at a full moon and I woke up at a new moon, and my primitive mind was like, it does not compute. What is Marisa, and she realized that her mom had told her a couple weeks before that it was coming up. But we sat there, and that's the first time we had seen the Southern Cross, and the Milky Way cuts right through the Southern Cross, and then there's this blood wolf dragon breath moon. It was just a magical moment that, I looked around, it's 3:00 in the morning. I caught this thing in an hour window of its existence. And I was like, this is what it's all about.
Yes,
absolutely. And it leads you on to another one of those moments, isn't it? It's like, well, why did I wake up at that time to see this? The chances. Yeah. I used to love sleeping in the desert. That's something I really miss. I just had such a good sleeping in the desert. Loved it.
Yeah.
Looking at the sky and
all the stars
and the heat coming up from the sand. Oh, it was just lovely. Loved it. It took me a while actually to sleep in a bed when I came home. Like I couldn't sleep in because I didn't have a mat. I just slept with a sleeping bag on the floor. Yeah, because I like a hard. Well, I'd sleep on the floor normally, to be honest. And when I got home, my wife was just like, she'd wake up and I'd be on the floor asleep,
wow.
Never mind. She probably kicked me out of bed, so never mind. Right. Was that... is there anywhere you didn't make it to that would be on the must-do list? Well, you haven't finished yet, have you? So, Brazil.
South America, Brazil. Like, we would like to go to everywhere in South America.
I know that your personal goal right now is castles in Europe.
Yeah. But Venezuela and South America, I mean, all these doors of opportunity are kind of opening and shutting, you go back far enough, Syria was an amazing place to visit. Now you want to step in it,
Well, that's opened up again. Syria's open again. It is, yeah. I mean, obviously Aleppo, sadly there's nothing to see in Aleppo, but the southern parts of Syria are almost untouched, apparently. I had a chap on last week called Johnny Ward, and he's not a motorcyclist, but he's sort of overland travelled to every single country on Earth. He's done all 215 now. And he was saying he now runs organised trips to like the more obscure places and countries. And he said, Syria is now back open, and he's taking people there. So
that is a key for overland travel.
It is.
Country.
Yeah,
because,
definitely.
To get, kind of from the African continent, or even from the Southern Asian side to Europe or Eastern Europe, then you either have to go through Syria or Iraq or Iran. And so that would be amazing.
Marisa actually spent a lot of time in Syria.
I did. And it has a special place in my heart. So you've definitely made my day.
Well, I really wanted to see Syria because I'd heard so many amazing things about it, but I was on the road 212 to 214, so it was literally, it was just happening then. So I was like, I'm not going there. There's no point. Yeah, right. But I'd still love to go and see it. Beautiful place.
Well, I mean, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have gone to Colombia,
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. Who knows what the next 10, 15 years will hold, do we? Who knows? Who knows?
And we might still be in Africa if it wasn't for Ethiopia having a civil war. It just seemed overnight that it just closed its borders. And so, things are always opening and closing.
Yeah, definitely. Africa is so... maybe volatile is the wrong word, but things just happen at such a pace there. It can be fine in the morning, and then by lunchtime, it's literally like riots in the streets, isn't it? And it's chaos, or vice versa. But I definitely want to go back. I want to explore Africa more because I've got unfinished business. I want to go back and see proper Africa.
Yes.
Egypt.
Yeah. Next one, Bob Hawley. Hello, folks. Hope all is well. My question: what would you say are the biggest differences in the bike culture here in the States as opposed to other countries such as the UK, Germany, etc.? Based on your travels, which country has the best motorcycle culture and why? So biggest differences and then best.
Well, I am ignorant. I cannot answer because I have not been to the European continent.
But we can talk about the places we have been. And what we've seen is that as far as a motorcycle traveling haven, South America was...
adventure motorcycle.
Yeah. Yes. A lot of Brazilians and Argentinians would have these adventure motorcycles, and people from all over the world were shipping their bikes there because it really is just the perfect place for adventure motorcycling.
From Alaska to Ushuaia is the yellow brick road of my personal opinion. Is a very fantastic route that covers interesting culture, history, sceneries, and all that.
Yeah. Now, as far as Africa goes, you don't see as many adventure motorcyclists.
Some people are scared to death. Was that Namibia? Who was like, if they saw a motorcycle like a mile up the road, they would grab their kids and chuck them into the ditch.
Wow.
Really? The motorcycles there. Yeah.
Very, very.
Any motorcycle. Yeah.
And I come from a culture, not a culture. I come from a social norm of you see somebody on a BMW down to on a Vespa, but you throw out like a hey sign.
Yeah.
And it's really awkward because when I got to Mexico, there's 100 times more motorcyclists. And I'd always be like, hey, you're
constantly doing it.
Be like, you're an idiot. Yes. What are you doing? And then it took me a long time, and everywhere else in the world, there's very small motorcycles that are their major transportation systems.
And you have to get used to you being on a big bike and the other traffic seeing you as being on a small bike that can't go very fast. They don't understand. And they expect you to go to the side of the road and around them when you're going very fast, like a regular vehicle.
Yeah.
And I would say that in South Africa, though.
South Africa had a
very big adventure motorcycle
KTM.
Culture.
Yeah. It's massive there, isn't it?
Massive. It's the only place in the world where it's like, it doesn't go Beamer KTM. It's like KTM and then that other brand. It's like, whoa. I felt like
they'll love that. They'll love that.
Usually people ask me who makes your bike, and I say KTM, and they say, yeah, but who makes KTM? And I'm like, BMW, whatever. Like,
I have a GS now. Believe it. Sorry, I'm really sorry. I love it. I love it. But I've taken out the KTM's. I took out the new Super Adventure S. Wow, what a bike! Phenomenal. I put my hand up. That is a fantastic machine. And I get loads of abuse, well-natured abuse, but loads of abuse from KTM owners, a lot of South Africans that are giving me a lot of abuse for having the GS, definitely. Yeah. When you're going to grow up and be a real man and get a proper bike, all that sort of stuff.
No, they're both equally awesome motorcycles.
Every bike has good points and its flaws.
The KTM 1190 was the Goldilocks, because now they make the 1090 and the 1290, but the 1190 was just this peaceful harmony of not too big, not too small, Cinderella moment.
Goldilocks.
Try that new 1290 engine, or don't, because you might end up buying it.
Please.
Bad idea.
Buy a 1290 or travel for 3 years.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Based on your travels, which country has the best motorcycle culture then?
Motorcycle culture.
We mentioned South Africa and their love of KTMs, but America has a great motorcycle culture as well, though we tend to be more Harley, geared towards Harley, or also sports bikes.
No. Well, but I do think that we all are in the same quote unquote brotherhood that everybody likes to refer to until they start bashing each other's bikes. And it's like, what happened to the brotherhood? But, but, and again, I have not personally been to Europe, and then in South America and in Africa, it's usually smaller motorcycles. There are communities of larger motorcycle groups and clubs, but I do think, to my knowledge, from my own experience, the States has a huge open source brotherhood of biker campers, ADV rider, it's equivalent to, Horizons Unlimited. I do like the feeling and the greetings and the general excitement when people see a bike that looks like it's from outer space, and they're like, whoa, where did you come from? And it sucks because now we're back in Chicago, where we're from. And so people be like, whoa,
where did you ride from?
Where are you from?
Down the street.
But we still have an interstellar galactic spacecraft that...
Yes, our bike does look a bit extreme.
It looks like the Death Star at the beginning of Star Wars. No.
It's got a story, hasn't it? It's like when you look at your story, every dent, every mark, every scratch, just every sticker, it's got a story behind it, hasn't it? And all those memories. I still got my bike, my Jigsaw, sits out in the garage there, and I don't ride it anymore, but I'll never get rid of it. And when I'm in the garage and I see it, it's like, oh, and I still sit on it every now and then. Like, oh yeah, how are you doing?
How are you doing?
I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you get to Europe on your travels, because the biking community in Europe is as strong as anywhere. It's almost fanatical. Places like Spain and Italy, they just love bikes, sports bikes, any bikes, they love them. Norway, if you're going to Norway, that's one of the That is one of the most friendly, welcoming sort of biker communities I've ever been involved with. It was amazing. Russia, are you planning to do Russia?
Oh yes, 100%. We got to get to Mongolia.
You'll be blown away. On it, they are when they open up, they're quite cold when you first meet them. But if they're still talking to you after 4 or 5 minutes, you're literally family, and they'll just open their life up to you. They are so friendly, and they love bikes. Love them. So you'll have a whale of a time in Russia. It's a great place. Blew me away. I was not expecting Russia to be as fun and welcoming as it was. It really wasn't. It was great. Loved it. I'd go back.
Wow.
Anyway, next one. Last one of the Patreon questions. Scott Joby. What would be your top advice for a 2-up couple that have taken shorter trips together but are now considering a year-long trip to a different continent, say South America?
Top advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm number
no
one
pressure.
Yes.
is always just go for it, because I think it's easy to get stuck in the planning and, at least for me, the worrying of, do I have everything I need? Do I have all the knowledge I need? What if I don't know how to blah, blah, blah? And I can get into that cycle and then never leave. So
yeah, you'll learn more on the road in 2 weeks than you will of preparation and researching for 2 months, or whatever.
But you've already done trips, it sounds like. And so I say you're ready.
Yeah. I mean, the South American continent, and again, I won't be able to finalize this comment until, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, but that is a motorcyclist haven, my favorite continent so far.
Love it.
I mean, going down the Pan American Highway is always a gold mine that you can always revert back to for,
the safety and security of pavement.
Absolutely. Yeah. You were always within sort of throwing range of help, whether that's mechanical, medical. If you're near the Pan American, you can get somewhere, can't you? So it's, as you said,
we
like the lifeblood.
It's a vein for sure. And we varied off well away from it. And we actually liked riding through the Andes and everything. But then we get back to like Lima as a big city. Whenever my bike inevitably needed a left-handed thingamajigger, then I would be able to order it. But
a KTM needing mechanical work? No way. It's not KTM.
I bought the one faulty one. I did have this perception before we left that if I needed a part in Peru, it would be 2 months before I can get it. And
that's not the case.
No, 10 days.
Though it may not be easy, and it may not be the right part.
Yeah.
And they may not know how to install it because they're very used to the smaller motorcycles. So it is sometimes hard to find a mechanic who knows what they're doing, but you can find them.
And a tip to anybody out there, including this question, look up big motorcycle tour companies, not to pester them. And I hope this doesn't go, you would never pester them, but like they know big bikes and they know the mechanics that can work on the big bikes, and they can probably get parts for the big bikes and well enough the tires for them. And usually they're more than happy to sell you one of the sets of, the 21 inch or 19 inch front wheel, 17 inch, 18 inch rear. And that to me, because a lot of the KTM shops, and it's probably different in the BMW world, but the biggest bike a lot of these KTM shops have ever seen is like a 350 Super Duke. And that's like their top of the line big bike, and then you roll up in your Galactic Cruiser thing and they're like, they're like, I don't have, the brake lines were connected to the, what, it's like this game. Dude. But
that is really good advice.
A safety net of not only mechanics out there, KTM dealerships, BMW, Ducati, Honda, whatever it might be, but the big motorcycle tour companies are always willing to to help a pair traveling solo.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great advice. Definitely. There was a question I had on the tip of my tongue there. What was it? Hang on. Top advice for two couples, short trips. Something that you said, Marisa, about how you can sort of over plan, can't you? And I've heard a few people say this. Like, the best advice is set a date for leaving and stick to it. I can't remember where I saw that, but it is so true. If you've got that date that you can't back out of, and that's when you're going, that's the best thing, isn't it? It's the hardest part, leaving.
Same thing.
Yeah.
We set a date. It was going to be the solar eclipse. Again, we like the stars.
August
Cosmos.
21st of 2017.
That's right. That was the date that we were going to leave. And he didn't even have a proper driver's license. He had a temporary one, and it had to be mailed to us. And it was a bit of a disaster.
Just to be clear, I had one, and then I renewed for it in Illinois because I didn't want to be...
You did have one. You just didn't physically have one, yes.
Yeah.
But
Details.
Yeah. It's all in the fun.
I spent, I think, I had a set date that I was going, but it was in 3 years' time, and there was no, I could only go in 2012 because at the time I was in the police and we had the Olympics coming to London, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to get any time off, a career break. I won't be able to do that before the Olympics or during the Olympics, so it's got to be after. And then the whole reason I did my story was I promised my mum before she died that I would, live my dream and do this trip. So I had her birthday. So it's her birthday, 2012. Bang. That's when I'm leaving. So I had that to focus on. But I had 3 years of planning. And I look back and go, do you know, if something ever happened in life that meant, okay, I'm in a position where I can go again, I would literally... I would pick my credit card up, my phone, my passport. I'd get on my bike and I'd go. That'd be the amount of planning. I'd just go. Yeah. But it's the benefit of experience, isn't it? And that before you think you've got all this stuff to do, but in reality, just hit the road and go.
Well, and sometimes finances get in because we're all bred here on this side of the Atlantic. We're conditioned into what we call the American dream. Yeah. And it's not so far. I'm not going to be crazy it's robotic and you do whatever, but it's
same here.
You make money and you spend more money than you make, and you pay those bills, you pay that interest, and you buy the house that you can't afford, and you buy the big ass TV, and you have the two, whatever. Right. And, if you can limit all that, the American dream is definitely reality, but once you're able to let go of those material things, it was very liberating to be able to now say, okay, now I don't have 2 car payments and a mortgage and a credit card payment, And so when you're saving for a trip, it was very nice for me to have paid off a car, and then I see my bank account actually growing, and then I pay off my motorcycle, and I'm like, oh my God, we are accumulating money at a faster rate than we ever have, because now we've made a goal for our future that if we work at, we can make it into a reality.
But we lived like hobbits for years. I mean, this is what he always says, because we lived in this house that was slowly eroding into the earth.
I'd say it had character, but that character is big fan.
That character was mold, is what it was. And so we were very, not taking any vacations, not spending anything, not really doing anything, just hoping, waiting and waiting and waiting.
But you had an end game to focus on, didn't you? You've got the dream. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim, you were saying something.
Well, if you make it I got caught up in this financial world of, wow, I just saved up for a year. I'm making the most money I've ever had in my life. So if I save up for another year, that'd be another 3 years to travel. And if I work for 2 years, that's 6 years. And I'm glad I snapped out of my little, requiem of a dream, inception moment of whatever you want to call it, because then I would be one day maybe I'd have $1 billion and be 98 and be like, now I can go on my trip.
Exactly.
So it's too late. You definitely have to
just go for it.
Commit. So that's a very
long
answer to the question of Do it.
Absolutely. Just do it. Just hit the road and go for it. Right, that's all the Patreon questions. I'll pop across to Instagram. Are you guys okay for time? We've probably got about another 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Is that all right? Lovely. We'll fire across to Instagram, so that's at TeapotOne Insta. I'll put links to Tim and Marissa's socials in the podcast show notes, and if you're watching the vid, check out the vid description, and there'll be all the links to the website and all their socials down there, folks. So make sure you give them a follow. There are loads of people on Instagram basically saying they've been following you and are really looking forward to this, but there's a couple of questions. 2 or 4 wheels adventure. He asks, 2 wheels always require some form of assistance at the side of the road. How do you plan for these challenges? Do you consider a country or area breakdown? Do you consider country or area breakdown cover? So how do you plan for maintenance, basically, and malfunctions?
So I am mechanically below average.
Below average.
I love the way you looked at Marissa with loads of confidence and very quickly kind of.
I was going to say challenge.
Yeah, right.
Mechanically challenged. I think you're better than mechanically challenged.
Yeah.
When you started, though,
I know how to. I know how to change my oil. I know how to clean my air filters. I know how to clean my chain, and I know how to patch a tire. And that's what I left with the knowledge of. And about every year, I would get another centimeter further into engine components, which is a big difference. And, but, I've seen things on a motorcycle that I didn't exist before. I'm like, that's what that wobbly centrifuge.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, idiot. This is simple mechanics. But I do think you don't have to know a lot to start. And I think if you know how to change your own oil and some of these other basic things, it just makes things a lot easier, solve quickly. But there's always somebody that can assist you.
Absolutely.
But back to the question, it's really hard to prepare for worst case scenarios because worst case scenarios are never really in the foresight, And
you can't carry all the tools in the world. You can't carry all the spare parts.
Yeah, I carry brakes, a spare fuel filter, and a spare oil filter. And now I bought a stainless steel filter so I can just reuse it. But as far as spare parts go, what will always happen is, it's been said a million times before, but whatever you carry, you won't need, and whatever you leave at home, it's the thing that snaps in half.
Yeah.
But there are friendly and knowledgeable people all around the world. I have never been into a town where there wasn't somebody that was geniusly like, I know how to solve this problem. All you need to do is X, Y, and Z, and rah, rah. And sometimes you have to have a lot of faith into people's like fixes, because it's not how the KTM dealership would do it, So sometimes you just gotta close your eyes and be like, just do it.
I totally get what you're saying. Like, I remember it's in some of the countries where they've never seen the bike that you're on or the engine that you're on, but at the end of the day, it's an engine, isn't it? And the resourcefulness that these people have, because they don't have an option. They can't take it to their local dealership. They fix it. If they don't work, they don't eat, they don't survive. They get it going, don't they? And I remember I snapped the subframe going through the Sahara in Mauritania, and I managed to limp the bike to like an overland guest house, and the chap that ran it was like, I know a mechanic, I'll get a mechanic round. And this mechanic just sort of had a look, and he was like, well, you couldn't TIG weld, you couldn't aluminium weld, but he said, I'll solder it and rivet it together. And that's what he did. He just got a couple of bits of metal and riveted everything together, and that worked. That sort of got me out of that predicament. And then it snapped twice crossing Russia. And I remember one time I literally got picked up by a bike race. These mad Russians were racing from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok, literally the entire width diagonally of Russia, 10,000 kilometers. They were doing it in 10 days. And I happened to be, I was enjoying myself on the road, and I caught up with the leaders, and we were having a bit of fun. And then I hit this pothole, and it snapped the frame like a twig. So we stopped, and they said, "Oh, it's okay. We've got we have a support truck. He's in the next town ahead of us. So I said, oh, that's fantastic. They phoned him up, said, yeah, I'll come back and get you. It was like 6 hours for him to turn around and come back. But he did it. And by which point, everyone else in the race had caught up and everyone stopped and they all got there's poles there. Everyone got their beer out and food. And we had like a little bike festival at the side of the road. Then this amazing Moldovan guy that looks like a pirate turned up, who turns out he'd ridden round the world on a motorbike as well, and he's got a book and everything. And he put me in his van with the bike, strapped the bike to the back of his van, and he drove 24 hours to the next town where he said, I know a mechanic. I'd never met anybody before. We pulled into like a roadside services. This guy I'd never met took my bike, shook my hand, put it in a van and disappeared. And I was introduced to this Russian couple who took me to live with them for 5 days in like a Russian block of flats. I was there for 5 days, didn't know where my bike was. And then I was taken to my bike and it's all fixed. And you're just like, this is amazing. This is what you watch on the TV.
Faith in humanity.
Yeah.
It's so
Absolutely
hard. And not even, it is hard sometimes, but when you just accept it and go with the flow, amazing things happen. Yeah.
And it's you get fed. We get fed so much through the media, don't we? There's for whatever reasons, there's political reasons, there's all sorts of reasons, but you get fed all of this. It's propaganda that you're fed to. These people are bad. These people are bad. Don't go here. Don't go there. Don't trust these people. But when you travel and you're relying and you're meeting normal, real people, everyone's the same, aren't they? Everyone's just looking out for themselves, the family, and each other.
And one thing that I've learned as far as mechanics go, there's people smarter than me everywhere in the world. And so just because I don't know how to solve a thing.
Wise.
Let that be a keynote. Just because I don't know how to solve all the problems, that doesn't mean that there's not somebody that, like you said, engines. They have two things that go like this, right? And there's some things that go like this, and they all, are ignited by gas.
Yeah. And that's one of the beauties of being on a motorcycle is that you are vulnerable. And people understand that. They see that you're vulnerable to the elements, but also these breakdowns, like in the question, you on two wheels, you don't have all the things that you might need. And people see it and they respond, usually in the best way possible.
And they like to help. And a lot of people, there will be a lot of people that really want to help, but are at the same intelligence level as me. And so they're excited to help, but they have no idea what's going on. And so we're both just looking at it and, we're both men. So neither of us can be like,
But if all else fails, they'll just be like, come home. You stay at my place. We'll feed, we'll drink beer. It'll be okay. We'll figure it out.
I know a guy.
Yeah.
But
awesome. I'm glad it wasn't just me. Good. My friends literally, they were peeing themselves laughing when they were like, you are going to ride around the world, because I could, in fact, I don't think I even knew how to tighten my chain initially. My mates were like, you better learn how to lube your chain and tighten your chain, but at least. So that was like the sum total of my mechanical knowledge. And I can do some very basic things now. But I took all the tools and I had no idea how to use any of them, and I dumped them halfway across Russia. What's the point? I don't know what I'm doing.
That's what people said. Awesome. Like, I had tire iron for the longest time, and then someone was like, are you bringing a spare tire? And I'm like, no. Nope. Why do you have tire iron? So I'm like, Good point.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, I'm glad it's not just me. Thank God for that. Right, last one of the Instagram. David Snelling, UK. David went round the world back in 2008. It was him and his mate Kurt, two young lads, ex-military, about 21, 22, I think the lads were, passed their bike tests and hit the road and did the Ewan McGregor, Charlie Borman long way round journey. Nice. But they'd literally just passed the bike test to do it. And I was following their trip that gave me some inspiration to do mine. So, I owe them a lot. Cheers, gents. They're asking, when we travelled, as young lads, we were on an absolute budget. How do you fund such an epic trip?
So we saved up for, I always like to say 5 years, but it was,
I think it was a little less.
yeah. But we had the spark of what we might want to do. And thank goodness for both of us, just by chance, not by maturity, but like she didn't have an insane amount of college debt and I didn't have an insane amount of credit card debt, which by American standards, we were already $100,000 on the positive side, even though we were broke. But we were able. We had
good jobs.
We both had good jobs. And then once it went into the click mode of we want to do this, you know, it no longer was, hey, you want the 3D curved smart TV? That might look, there's a 75-inch one now we could buy, or like
or 20 ears one.
Yeah. So, I mean, once we were focused, again, we lived in the house with character. And, you know, my boss would even be like, why do you live in that crap hole? You know, and I'm like, I like it. And he's like, you like living in garbage? I'm like, oh, it's nice. But, you know, we had to live in a tent. Yes.
Yeah.
So it was 2 incomes. She was a teacher, and I was in the very boring job of telecommunications, of
cell phone towers,
selling parts for, you know, different carriers, but we were lucky to not be in debt to begin with, and then be able to live semi-basically, pay things off, and just watch our bank account grow. And we did that for about 4 years, and we won't get all the way into our finances, but just to satisfy some curiosities out there, we figured we'd spend around $20,000 to $24,000 a year, depending on what continent we were in. Obviously, North America would be more expensive than South America. Africa would be cheaper than Europe. And our plan was always to be broke once we got to Europe. Because
you will be. It's expensive.
Yeah, you know.
So, but and that pretty much worked out.
And the good thing, the last couple years, and this isn't a shameless plug, this is just me talking finances, but like it's nothing to brag about here in the States, but I made a couple $100 a month off of just book sales. And like that was made us financially in Africa
during the pandemic. That was huge.
That paid for all of our stuff.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Hey, thank you, everybody. But like, yeah, it wasn't like, you know, I made $2,000 off of book sales. It paid for our little cheap house and our steak dinners and feeding cats, and so it was, you know. But now that we're back in America, and there's Amazon where you can get stuff in 2 days. I have a really hard problem adjusting not to saying, how do I type in just one of each and send it 2 days? Yeah.
Amazon is the bane of my life. I've gone from like living out of a couple of small bags for a year and a half, and now I just have stuff everywhere. Like, when did I get this? I was going to say, you guys are on YouTube. How do you find YouTube then? Have you managed to get monetized on YouTube as yet?
We're a couple hours short of the
almost
the requirements.
We really haven't been focusing on YouTube for very long.
But now we're
had
committed.
The channel for a while, but we didn't do anything with it for years.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing that.
It's Notiers, Frontiers.
Absolutely. Links down below. Make sure you give the guys a follow and watch some vids. Even if you just hit play and let it run in the background, it builds up the hours, and that's what you need. You need to get, is it 4,000 watchable hours, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. It sounds like an insurmountable amount, but it builds up really quite quickly. So you'll be doing them a massive favor if you just get on there, watch some videos, just let them run in the background, and then you'll be YouTube millionaires. You'll be living the YouTube dream before you know it.
Yes. We'll be
I've got Lamborghinis, Ferraris, everything parked out there. Yeah.
I'll have 2 KTMs.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Are you okay there are 3-4 questions left on Facebook. Are you all right for them?
To be clear, we have all day. It is only 2:25 here, so you got until 10 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys giving up so much of your time here. Nearly there. So we're now over across on Facebook, folks. So this is facebook.com/TeapotOne. And again, I'll put Tim and Marissa's Facebook links down below. So Wayne Kinsey. Hi, Tim and Marissa. And you, Bruce. Hi, Wayne. Is the plan to go back to where they left off and carry on as originally planned, or do they think their plan will change and morph into something else? Now they've had a bit of time on their hands and a different... Oh, sorry, there's a C more. Apologies. And different experiences under their belts. Hope to see you when you eventually get to the UK. I can't remember if we covered this at the start or not.
A little bit. I think now that we're on the North American continent, our revised plan... the answer to the question is all of the above. But I think in the next couple of years, we're going to go to Alaska and then start in the UK and then travel back down to where we've left off and then make our way towards Mongolia being the end goal.
Yeah.
But because we left off in Uganda. Obviously, we wanted to go all the way up. It is an odd spot.
To start and end.
Yes, and there is that problem of getting to and from Egypt from Europe. Road. It's pretty difficult.
So what would you do? Would you go around the west of Africa and across?
I don't know. I do. I've always my plan, if everything went to plan like it always does, right, would be right up the eastern coast, go from Egypt to Turkey, kind of follow the Balkans. And then make our way to dip down into Spain, then dip down into Morocco. And that would, because there's kind of a couple blockers from east to west between Egypt and Morocco. But
you can't get Algeria. You can't get through that at the moment, can you?
Yeah. But probably head back to
the priority is I want to see the pyramids, and so that brings us back to the east coast of Africa. And so we'd probably just continue down, go visit Dora and Marco, the cats we raised. Now they'll be children of their own. It would be an amazing but
we would love to do that. And really, we want to get to Asia as well. I mean, Mongolia, Central Asia, all of that. We are just one day we will.
But castles first. That is my first priority. Neglected castles.
I can't wait to see your vids when you finally get to like Switzerland and Germany. Oh man, a kid in the sweet shop. Awesome. Nice one, Wayne. Cheers for that, pal. Next one, Simon Broom. To all of you, you're riding on your trip and have 12 months to go when a glitch on your media player of choice leaves all your music deleted, apart from one album. Oh, it's like we've already done this. One album, your favorite. This means you only have one album to listen to for the next 12 months. What is it? Compilation albums are not allowed. That's a twist to it.
That hurts. Yeah.
No compilations.
I think this is different from the other question. Because you asked me what my favorite is.
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Soundtracks are compilations.
Yeah, I would say they are.
To me, I'm not going to satisfy anybody here except for maybe one or two other people to be like, yeah, that's a good answer. But going to go with like Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, nice.
Illusion 1 or Appetite for Destruction. that covers some of the rock operas and your nitty gritty. Get through this. Let me help you by welcoming you to the jungle in a very loud voice.
I think I would pick the Avatar soundtrack, which is jungle themed as well.
Yes.
I do like listening to it on the motorcycle because it makes, like, when we're passing through the forest and it just has such a wild sound to it. And of course it's very epic. So I'm on my epic adventure. Yeah. That would be my pick.
I'm more of a rock opera.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I love a bit of like rock blues, like Jeff Healey. Good God, I've totally forgotten his blooming name. Oh, geez, guitarist, amazing guitarist.
Eric Clapton.
No. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Boom.
Nailed it.
Love listening to all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So when I'm riding on the bike, I just love that sort of music playing in the background. Mega.
Yeah. I mean, it's a trick question because there's like, as human beings on this epic journey, as he called it, which is very true, you go through all these different mood swings. I'm not always in a Axl Rose scream in my ear mood. Sometimes I'm in a,
When we were going through the Bolivian salt flats, there was so much sand. I was so scared that at any moment we were just going to fall over. I was feeling like I was having a nervous breakdown at that moment. Yeah. And I had to put on this Indian kind of, you've got the sitar and very peaceful, meditative music to calm me down because I was so nervous all the time. And it really helped.
My repertoire, I'm very thankful for my random playlist. And so now we're breaking away from the question, but I will have anything from smooth jazz that like, like, oh yeah, this is
Five Finger Death Punch. Yeah.
So there's, it's good to experience all
absolutely.
But if I get stuck on her channel, that's what happens when you click and press long hold for too long on the Senna. I get stuck in her world, and that is
you're like, what?
Yes.
Imagine vice versa, though. Marissa, you end up listening. Next question. That was a nice one, Simon. Cheers for that, pal. Next one, Gordon Stewart. Gordon. Gordon is a sort of charity motorcycle adventurer, a lovely fella from here in the UK. He's known as the Arctic Rider, and he's riding to the Arctic Circle on every country possible in the world. Basically, he's a family man. He raises money for a couple of kiddies' charities. Right. So he can't like just head off and go on this amazing journey. He has to do it in little steps, little installments, if you like. So he's spread it over a few years, but it's an incredible thing he's doing. Gordon says, wow, sounds awesome. How do you keep yourself occupied as a pillion on such long adventures?
I love being a pillion. A lot of people ask me, are you going to get your own motorcycle? And the truth is I cannot ride a bicycle. So it would be a long time before I ever got my own motorcycle.
I taught her how to ride a bicycle. She can go straight like a champion.
I can't turn and start and stop. It's a disaster. But I enjoy it a lot because it's very meditative. I get to listen to my music. If I ever get bored of listening to music, I also have podcasts on, it connects to the phone. You can listen to audiobooks. As long as we're not going too fast and it's too windy, I can hear all of that.
None of that in Patagonia.
I really don't get bored at all. There's always beautiful scenery to look at. And if I'm ever super, super bored, I can just chime in and just start blabbering away to Tim.
So this is the thing, right?
Bother me.
She likes to listen to all these. She's more intelligent than I, and I think through the course of this podcast, people have come to realize that. But you listen to other podcasts about scientifical.
Yeah.
It
sounds like a real word. Go for it.
Yes, it does. But she'll listen to all this goodness and have no one to tell her newfound information, and she'll double click the Senna and, hey Tim,
guess what I just learned
about it, and I'm just like, I can't avoid, because again, this is my personal space. There's no locked door. There's no to hang on the doorknob. So she chimes in, and I'm just.
I've tried to rein myself in. I'll wait until we're having lunch
and I'm
for
good
dinner,
for
and
like 5 minutes. Oh wow, interesting. Oh yeah. Oh, that is a fun fact. But
I don't
I think every single couple on Earth must go through the same thing. Just in the normal run of a normal relationship, isn't it? It's just you happen to be traveling the world on a bike. Yeah.
I can't obviously speak as a pillion, but what I would relate it to in my mind's eye is like, I used to take train trips up to the Pacific Northwest as a kid, where you're in these long cabs with huge picture windows. and you're not the conductor, even though he doesn't have a really hard job except to, I guess, push a stick forward. That's how I think trains work. But, like as a pillion, as a train passenger, you have to look out this beautiful window, not be concerned, and you have to absorb the scenery and, and that's what I would assume. Because a lot of the times I have like these horse blinders on and I'm looking, like, don't hit the potholes, don't hit the cars, don't hit the mules, don't hit the llamas,
But I get to see all the things.
Except for what's in front of it.
I can't see what's in front of me because I have this big old helmet. But I can see everything else. And so, there's a deer or there's whatever.
And you're like, what deer?
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Last question. Joanna Birkin. How did you transport your bike and handle the costs? So I take it that's from, did you go from South America across to Africa? Is that where you shipped, or did you go back to States?
No, we started in Chicago, rode all the way down to Ushuaia, rode back up to Buenos Aires, and then flew the bike back to Chicago, solely because we wanted to see friends and family again, because it had been 2 years, and it would just be a nice break. And speaking of breaks, my bike had a couple breaks of its own. Because South American ingenuity can get you to the next town or maybe get you to the next country, but there's a certain point in time where you want to, fix the major plugs.
And then we flew it from Canada to South Africa. And now this last time we've flown the motorcycle from Uganda to Chicago. And
the Northern Hemisphere, Air Canada, and sadly at the time of this taping, the deal is not out, but back in the 2 years ago, and hopefully next year it will be, but Air Canada has about the best air freight for motorcycle deal out there, which is around $1,200 US flat rate from anywhere in Canada going to 6 or 7
destinations in Europe.
Yeah, which are Heathrow is where we flew ours.
For $1,200 US or $1,200 Canadian.
I think it might
$1,200 US. I think it was
I think it might even be less if you fly Air Canada yourself.
Yeah, but if you're penny pinchers like we are, if we could save more than $100 by booking, whatever. Well, we tried to save as much money as we could, but that was the best deal. Flying the bike anywhere, and I forget from Buenos Aires to Chicago.
I forget too, but this last time it was really expensive, but we didn't have much of a choice from Uganda.
Yeah. It was about $5,000. Yeah. It was $5,000, but I wanted my bike. I didn't want to just abandon it there. And I had the Carnet de Passage, which was an $8,000 insurance policy that made me not be able to abandon my bike, or else I wouldn't get the $8,000 back. So in essence, I had to spend $5,000 in order to get $8,000 back. But I still have my bike. I love my bike to death. Like you said about your other motorcycle, you'll never sell it. I'm never going to sell this thing. But I would say that I've paid more in air freight than I did for the motorcycle overall. Yeah. But that's an expense of traveling on a motorcycle. Now, if you were in a Land Rover, or if, God forbid, one of those Earth Roamer things, it's just the cost doubles. At least it's a motorcycle. But you'd be going by sea. And it could go on a plane.
Yeah, a motorcycle could go on a plane, which is nice. But you can also ship your bike by sea, and we've just never done that.
To me personally, it just does not make sense whatsoever to ever put your motorcycle on a boat.
I think it depends on where you're shipping from and shipping to. I think there's certain destinations, and what your time frame is. Certain destinations, it makes sense. If you have flexible time, if you're going to have a place to stay, so you're not just paying hotel rates day by day. Motorcycle for months.
If I'm flying out of Chicago and I know I'm going to be in London on January 15th, I want to be sure my bike is in London on January 15th. And so I don't have time to dilly-dally by shipping it on freight. And, there's always smiles when you pay them. And then after you pay, it's like, where's my bike? And like, it's like,
there's this fee. And then we have to
you got to bung the forklift driver money to do this and that person to do that. And you're like, oh God, I was the same. I predominantly shipped the major legs I shipped by air. And it wasn't as cheap as what you said, but that's 10 years ago. But as you said, it either flew on the same plane as me, just in the hold, or it was a day or two after, and boom, it's there then, isn't it? And off you go. Yeah. Nice one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions. Thank you very much for bearing with us to get through them all. Awesome.
Thank you. And thank everyone for the questions.
Yeah, people never fail. Thank you so much, folks. It really is what makes the podcast what it is just the sort of the variety of questions you get on here. You never know what you're going to get.
Very true.
Awesome. So what is the immediate future for you guys then? What's your plans? Obviously, you just got to wait and see if this Canada opens up or...
Yeah, I mean, that would be...
Today's your birthday.
Today is my birthday. Yay. So chocolate cake and chicken pies in the future. But I think we're going to go down and see my mother in Florida, which is just a mandatory thing.
We definitely want to tour around the States as much as we can.
But we just got off of a video chat with our friends, the Adventure Hacks, who are in BC. And as soon as that border opens between the U.S. and Canada, that is going to be our priority. They were a huge part and inspiration of our South American trip. They're best friends I never knew I had until 2 years ago.
They're starring in your next book.
Yeah. And so they're just a reunion of fellow travelers, and that's top priority.
We're also going to be giving some presentations at Overland events in the United States.
So they've popped back open, which is exciting. So Overland west and then mountain and east here in the States. So that's something to be excited and look forward to.
Yeah.
So we were talking before that, sometimes you get in a slump when you get back home, but we've just continuously been treading the adventure water travel, and so we've kept our head above ground and are excited for the future. And thanks to podcasts like this and stuff, there's just always these like energy boosts as we skip along.
And so. it's a nice time at the moment, because I don't know about the States, but here in the UK there's a real feeling of like anticipation and like, oh, we're nearly free. We've nearly got through this last year and however long it's been, and you can start planning for the future. Things are opening up, and it's just it feels like a nice atmosphere here. So I hope it's the same over there.
Springtime and happiness all around.
Yeah,
beautiful. Well, before we sum up and head off, I'll throw the floor open to you guys. Is there any shout outs you want to give? Do you want to plug your books, your YouTube channel, your social media, events? Feel free. Floor's open.
So just, I wrote this book a couple of years ago, and I never physically held it until we got back into Chicago. So I'm very glad.
Awesome.
It smells good, I promise. And the first thing I did when I got back here was order me one. But it is called Two Up and Overloaded. There's Marisa and I, Overloaded. From Chicago.
And where do people get that?
On Amazon. It's just no overhead for me. It's available worldwide. You can order it and have it to your house in 2 days, whenever. So
and there's paperback and Kindle.
Yeah, and there's paperback and Kindle, indeed. And I'm working on my next book, which is Blood, Sweat, and No Tears.
It should come out in August.
I have very awesome people assisting me with it. Sam Manicom has been a part of it to help do a forward, which is just
the nicest man in the world.
It's such an honor to have been excited and look at the greats in the industry, if you will, and now to be have Zoom calls with them for casual chat. It's like this is awesome. But no, we're excited, and again, we brought them up a couple times, but the next book would be nothing without our buddies Brennan and Kyra Hack, and they're best friends for forever, and that's something that adventure travel can do, is bring people
together. There's no better community.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. Like-minded people, whatever your background, whatever, you've got that one thing in common, don't you? And yeah, so it's a nice community to be part of. What's your website? If people want to follow.
It's my last name, Notier, Notier, notiersfrontiers.com. And that's where Marisa's got her little Sunday scoops every Sunday. She has a little blog of wisdom, and she's the more intelligent cultural side. And then on Facebook, which is Notiers Frontiers, is where I post pretty pictures and say, "Oh, look at this! This is totally rad." It's not as
that's falling out of trees and stuff. Yeah,
and same as Instagram. It's at Tim Notier, because I when I got on Instagram, I wasn't forward progressive thinking enough to link it to Notiers Frontiers. But
gotcha. I will put all the links to all of that in the podcast show notes and in the vid description, folks. So make sure you give them a like, a follow, and a subscription. And remember what I said about the YouTube channel. Make sure you fire across for them. Give them a subscribe. Give them a little thumbs up and a comment if you can. It does make a huge difference to the analytics. Just a simple thumbs up can make a massive difference. And just let the thing tick over in the background. So it opens up another revenue stream for the next stage of your journeys.
And one more shout out to Travis and Chantel. We've never met them in person, but they have been
via Harmoto.
Yes, during this whole lockdown situation, traveling, we've been in constant communication. And again, just the connections you make with people around the world. Just a warm, fuzzy feeling when I think of too many people to list now. But I did want to say a special shout out to them.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Gosh, I feel like this is the Oscars. And my mother.
Cue the music.
Hang on, I'll go and get a drink. I'll be back in an hour. Yeah. No, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you guys. It really has. Never met you in person, but you're lovely, lovely people. And I hope our paths cross one day at an event or on the road. It'll be great to chat with you in person. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Folks,
thank you, my friend.
No problem at all. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this one. What else can I say? I've been saying it for about the last year or so, haven't I? We're nearly through it. I'm sure we're nearly through it. But whatever happens, who cares? Live your life. Get on out there. Look after those that you love. Do what you can and live your life. Woo-ha! I mucked up the end. I've been saying this for 60 odd episodes and I mucked the end up. Never mind. Guys, absolute pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.